In the darkness of an abandoned building, the sound of multiple footsteps echoed through the halls. The steps belonged to men clad in black suits and helmets, each carrying a firearm. They moved methodically, scanning every corner as if searching for something or someone. Suddenly, a faint movement caught their attention. Without hesitation, they pursued it. It was a human child, riddled with scars. He moved with the agility of a wild animal, desperate to escape. But no matter how fast he ran, the men were faster. With practiced precision, they threw a net over him, bringing his frantic struggle to an end. The morning light was bright, almost dazzling. It stirred the child awake, his eyes blinking against the unfamiliar brilliance. He was no longer in the dark, abandoned building. Instead, he found himself in a child protection zone atop a hill. The contrast was jarring. Everything here was foreign. The smooth, flat floor beneath him, the clean clothes on his body, the food that arrived at set times. He struggled to understand this new world. Overwhelmed, he often chose to sit alone on the hill, avoiding the other children. Whenever someone approached him, asking him to play, he would panic and react unpredictably, unaccustomed to human interaction. From inside the building, a red-haired woman watched him with a gentle smile. Turning to a maid nearby, she asked, "Can he speak?" The maid shook her head. "No," she replied, before explaining that it wasn't due to any disability. He had simply never learned how. However, he seemed to understand some words. The rescue team had speculated that he had likely grown up among animals. "It's like Mowgli," she remarked, amused. But when she noticed the maid's confusion, she laughed gently and said that it made sense that she didn't know about Mowgli. Then she added, looking outside the window in a solemn tone, "It's from a story, before he came." The bell of the orphanage rang, and the children rushed toward an adult at the center of the courtyard, their faces alight with excitement. The child was confused, looking at the adult handing out letters to some of the children as he didn't know what it was. A voice behind him broke the silence. "That's a letter from a sponsor. Sometimes they send gifts too," explained a girl his age. She continued, telling him that sponsors were adults who took care of the children from afar. With enthusiasm, she recounted stories about the other kids, about Matthew, who had received a huge toy from his sponsor and wouldn't stop bragging about it, about Lily, whose sponsor had sent her a dress with countless frills, and about Joe, who even got to speak with his sponsor. At the end of her explanation, she added with a wistful smile, "I don't have a sponsor either, but I don't need one. My mom promised to come and get me after I spend 100 nights here. I just hope she comes soon." The next day, during class, the teacher was explaining how aliens had come from the far reaches of space and had become friends with humans. But one child in the class wasn't convinced. He knew the teacher was lying, maybe because she thinks that they are babies. Confident in his knowledge, he pulled out a book he had taken from the principal's study and explained to his friends the book told a very different story. It revealed that long ago, when the aliens first arrived, humans had fought them with an immensely powerful weapon called Hayek. But the aliens had consumed it, leaving humanity no choice but to surrender. The following day, during the usual distribution of sponsor letters, the teacher called out a name that had never been mentioned before, Mori. The child looked up in confusion. Smiling, the teacher approached him and explained, "This letter is for you. You have a sponsor now." When the brown-haired girl heard about it, she was shocked. Tears welled up in her eyes and she began to cry.
The boy went to check on the girl in their secret base, but she refused to speak to him. Concerned about her sadness, he thought about how he could comfort her, and decided to offer her his most cherished possessions. Seeing his sincerity, the girl finally opened up to him. She revealed that it had already been over 100 days since her mother had left, and she no longer believed her mother would return. Wanting to console her, the boy sat beside her, and his presence helped ease her pain. After a while, the girl asked the boy if she can really eat his cookie. Noticing his reaction, his eyes lighting up and his mouth watering, she decided to share it with him instead. Later, she picked up the sponsor letter he had received and offered to read it to him, as he could not read. The letter contained only 2 words, "Hello there," written in messy handwriting. Confused by the simplicity of the message, she checked the envelope for anything else. Suddenly, a beautiful glass flower slipped out and landed in the floor. The boy stared at the flower, mesmerized by its beauty. He held onto it throughout the day, even keeping it close as he lay in bed that night. When he brought it to his nose, he was captivated by its scent, a fragrance reminiscent of wildflowers. Enveloped in its soothing aroma, he soon fell asleep. The next day, when the bell rang, the teacher once again called Mori's name. She held another letter in her hand, accompanied by numerous gifts. The entire class was astonished at the generosity of his sponsor. As the girl read him the letter, she remained puzzled by the fact that it contained only simple words written in the same messy handwriting. Meanwhile, Mori was too engrossed in his gifts to pay attention to anything else. His friends speculated about the identity of his sponsor, wondering if it was someone wealthy and kind or if there were hidden motives behind the gifts. Mori, however, was more focused on the colorful crayons he had received. Unfamiliar with their purpose, he attempted to eat one, only for the girl to stop him just in time. She demonstrated how crayons were used, and when he saw them leave marks on paper, he was shocked and fascinated. The following day, as the weather was pleasant, the director asked the children to help with the laundry. Excited, they eagerly rolled up their pants and joined in. While most of the children seemed to enjoy the task, the girl appeared less enthusiastic. Mori, on the other hand, enjoyed it a little too much. Overcome with excitement, he began jumping in the tub. The girl tried to calm him down, but before she could, she suddenly heard a familiar voice call out her name. "Diana!" She turned around and saw her mother running toward her. Overwhelmed with joy, she abandoned everything and ran straight into her mother's arms. After hundreds of days of waiting, they were finally reunited. The boy watched the scene unfold, and for the first time, he wondered if he, too, would ever get the chance to embrace his own mother. Soon, the day of the girl's departure arrived. Her eyes were swollen from the tears of happiness she had shed. Before leaving, she advised Mori to be careful with his eating habits and handed him her shoes along with a few of her other cherished belongings. Unable to contain her emotions, she hugged him tightly and wished him happiness. Mori, happy for her, returned the hug. That day, everyone at the Child Protection Center gathered to bid her farewell. At last, she returned to her family. Once again, the boy found himself sitting alone on the hill. Though the absence of his friend left a deep void, he did not feel lonely. The letters and gifts from his sponsor were still with him, providing warmth and companionship. The cloak he had received was as soft as the warm sunlight. The colorful crayons and the talking doll brought him joy, and the letters carried the fragrance of wildflowers. As he looked at them, he found himself wondering about his sponsor. Recalling the image of his friend embracing her mother, he pondered a thought. Could this person be his mother? Unable to suppress his curiosity any longer, the boy packed his belongings into the bag his friend gave him. That night, wrapped in the red cloak he treasured, he gazed at the distant orphanage one last time. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, one step, then another, and so he set off on an unknown path to find his mother.